Hi everyone, I'm Melanie Palmer, co-founder at Best Intentions. I'm talking to Rob Gardner, Head of Investment at St James's Place Wealth Management. Rob is a financial activist on a mission to make money a force for good for people and the planet and create financial well-being in a world worth living in.
Well, welcome, Rob.
Hey, great to see you, Mel.
Lovely to meet you too. We haven't met in person, as is life at the moment, but hopefully one day we will. So, money and mental health is a topic that we are really interested in at Best Intentions, because our finances can have such a detrimental impact beyond the financial implications, really kind of bleeding into our overall well-being. But it's not necessarily a link that is always explored. Before we get into the detail on that, I'd be interested to hear from you, Rob, how you define what financial well-being is and why it's so important.
Yeah, well, look, I think for me, the killer stat, and it's a stat from the Royal College of Psychiatrists, which basically says half of all kind of mental wellness issues are normally related to some kind of indebtedness issue and issues around money. I always try and separate the difference between financial resilience and financial well-being. And so for me, financial resilience is this idea of, can you withstand the bumps in the road? So the sad truth is many people in the UK just cannot afford to pay for if their washing machine breaks down, or if you've got a car and you need to replace some tires, or, God forbid you lose your mobile phone. And so the bumps in the road literally say, in your bank account, do you have £500? Do you have £1,000? Do you have 1 month's worth of earnings in case something wrong happens or something bad happens and you can't deal with it? I think the statistic is the average time to get a new job when you've been made redundant or lose your job is about 4 months, but actually about 10% of people can take up to 12 months. And so for me, financial resilience is a bit like a smartphone battery. I get battery anxiety. I'm sure you do. But the cool thing about your phone is, as the energy goes down, it goes, oh, do you want to go into low power mode? And what it does is it sort of reduces the amount of battery and the apps that you're using. If I'm in the days when I used to commute to work, you'd maybe you'd stop listening to music, or you'd stop checking your Instagram. And so you naturally change your usage. And so for me, financial resilience is knowing, is your battery fully topped up? Is it running low? And it's probably red and in need of a serious charge if you're in some kind of consumer debt. Financial well-being is a different issue. So, more and more of us are going to live to 100. The fact is, the number of centenarians in the UK and around the world is doubling every decade, and we tend to underestimate our own life expectancy. And the issue is, and people haven't really kind of triggered it, but at some point you've got to stop working, and you need to have enough money for when you stop working. And the sad truth is, in the UK, the average man will run out of money 10 years before he dies, and the average woman will run out of money about 12 and a half years before she dies. And so financial well-being is being able to stop your future self running out of money. And we know that, unfortunately, our future self is more of a stranger to us than a stranger in the street. So we cannot relate to 70, 80-year-old Mel or 70 or 80-year-old Rob. And so for me, financial resilience is doing those really boring but simple things that can create that financial well-being in the future. And that's topping up your pension, going to your employer, salary sacrifice, things that, unfortunately, they've got these words like salary sacrifice. Who would call that? I say, let me show you how, if you just topped up your pension.
That's what they should call it.
Yeah, well, it's a pay rise. It's basically a free pay rise for your future self. And, here's why you should take it up.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we couldn't agree more. And it's one of the real kind of struggles, I guess, when it comes to finances, is, as you say, putting yourself in the position much further in the future, because we're so much of a society around instant gratification, and everyone's on Instagram and doing all of these amazing things, and we want to be doing them too. And I think that's the challenge, right? Is how can you, when you're in a situation where you are worried about your finances, your battery's on low, and it all feels a bit overwhelming because you feel so far away from that future that you really want to get to, what can people do? What steps can they take in order to start moving in the right direction?
Well, look, there are a couple of them, but I think the first one is kick unhealthy habits, and I'll come back and sort of explain that. Second thing, really important, and that's what I love about what you guys do with Best Intentions, but don't be afraid to talk about money. 3, ask for help and advice. So again, if it's okay not to know. 4, use the tools available to your advantage, and we'll drill into that a little bit. And then finally, raise your awareness and know what help is out there, and there's a lot of help out there. So look, the truth is that parents would rather talk to their children about sex than about money. So it's not surprising that money is such a sort of taboo topic. But look, when it comes to finances, there's so many parallels with your health. So if you're smoking and drinking a lot and you basically living on McDonald's diet, your health is probably not going to be great. And the truth is, if you're spending more than you earn and you're doing that on a credit card and rolling that over, that's not going to be in a good place. So if your smartphone battery or your financial battery is running on low because you've got lots of credit card debts, I would say try to pay those off as quickly as possible. And often you can take out a loan at a much lower rate and refinance it and pay it off quicker. So, what people don't realize is that, with a credit card with an APR of sort of 26%, you're basically doubling the amount of money you borrowed every 2.5 years. So getting a grip on that is absolutely essential. I think once you've mastered that, set yourself a challenge. Can you have £500 in the bank account, £1,000, 1 month's rent or 1 month's income? And that kind of starts to charge up your smartphone battery and build that financial resilience we talked about. The second thing is don't be afraid to talk about money. We know from mental well-being that, unfortunately, people don't like to talk about anxiety and how they're feeling, but there's just so much research that shows just what a negative impact not being on top of your money can have. And then that can feed through to issues at home, maybe if you're in a relationship, in a marriage, or you have kids. So look, try and talk to someone. It might be a friend, but if you go to your HR department, more and more companies now know how important financial well-being is, and there's probably some kind of financial well-being support for you there.
Yeah, I think that's something that, so our tagline at Best Intentions is let's talk money, right? It's one of those things that is easier said than done, because we have this taboo in this country that it is a very awkward and uncomfortable thing, and you shouldn't really talk about it. Have you always felt comfortable talking about money, or is that something that you've learned over time?
Yeah, I'm my mum and dad were teachers, and we grew up living in Argentina where inflation was running at like 30% a month. And my dad used to, every month we'd run around getting haircuts, buying stuff, because the price of goods would go up every day. So when I was about 7 years old, I was acutely aware of inflation and money in a way that was probably a bit weird. When I came back to live in the UK, I realized I knew a lot more about money than most people. So, this idea that I have this catchphrase that, earn it, keep it, grow it. And I suppose growing up as a small boy in Argentina, I learned the principles of earning it. I used to collect Coca-Cola bottles and take them back to get money again when I was 7 or 8 years old. And keep it, inflation. I mean, there's nothing like being in a supermarket and the price is changing every day to know that your money can flitter away. So yeah, luckily for me, I've always grown up in a family where we talk about money, but that's not normal. Most people don't.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a movement that we want to get as many people around as possible. And it's why, we've set up a Facebook group, because it's not always about us just saying these are the things that you can do, but it's about learning and sharing from other people as well. So there's definitely places out there which are getting more engaged and people feeling much more comfortable than they did before.
Yeah, and that's my third point. Ask for help and advice. And I follow you guys on Instagram, and there are lots of other great groups that do similar things. I just think we need to normalize talking about money. The one thing that people do tend to talk about is mortgages, and that there must be something about buying a home. But talking about money is so key. And look, especially if you're about to embark on a long-term relationship, like getting married, so often couples don't have that talk, and people get married and then they don't have a joint bank account. It's almost like the joint bank account is the last sort of bastion of being of being single. But the old adage that two heads are better than one is true here as it is in everywhere else in life. The fourth thing that I talked about was use the tools available to your advantage. And there are so many things out there that can help us. There are so many schemes, whether it's your ISA tax allowance, if there's a LISA that can help you save to buy a home. There are actually lots of great tax breaks. Most people don't realize just how valuable their company pension is, and quite often their company will probably match what they put in. And there's a lot of free money that you can get from your company. So it's just really knowing what's out there. I think the separate thing on tools is, most of us probably count our steps now or track our sleep. But there are lots of great tools out there to kind of help you track what you spend your money on. And the problem is with a kind of payless or smart payments on your phone, it's just so easy to spend money without even realizing. So, in the same way that you think about how you'd get fit and healthy, the same is true for your financial health. And then look, raise your awareness and know what help is out there. I think this is the most important thing, that your financial future or our financial future is our responsibility. That's the thing that no one's ever told us, and I suppose that's probably the thing it's okay to feel a little bit angry about. And when we think about our future, the current state pension is just £180 a week. I know I've really struggled to live off £180 a week. So really start to think about what steps you could take in the future to take action today to sort yourself out. And I know your colleague Tara was posting some brilliant tips the other day on your all our best intentions on Instagram. So go read. Sorry, the other thing is education. Whatever your thing is, read books, podcasts, Instagram posts, Facebook. There's so many great ways, newsletters. There's so many great ways to learn about it. And lots of people have really thought about how to make it much more engaging. So go and check that stuff out.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much, Rob. I mean, it's amazing to have actions to actually take away, because I think what happens a lot, and don't do this, if you start wanting to do your education and then you end up down this rabbit hole of, there's just too much information out there, it's going to providers who are speaking to you in a way that you understand. There's specific ones out there for people who are in debt, for women, for people from ethnic minorities, whatever it might be. Find the solution that works for you, that you can understand and you can relate to, and it can just have such a huge impact on what your life looks like in the future, which ultimately will kind of change your outlook as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Rob. Really appreciate your time.
Well, Mel, thanks a lot for having me.